Good morning and welcome to SEO. Welcome to SEO. I just had to unmute myself there for a second. I'm Dante. I'll be taking you through today. Just in case you're wondering who I am, this is who I am. Hi. I'll reshare that screen so we can get back on with it. It's a big topic we're going to cover today, and it's important to know that this is an overview. This is not everything to do with SEO. We're not going to go deep into very highly technical parts of SEO. This is for you to get an understanding of what it takes to get ranking on Google, and also to really get an insight into the things that you can do and the things that others will be able to do for you with a little bit of help and maybe a bit of cost too. Let's get underway. This quote here is from a very good guy called Simon Penson, who is a very big on marketing and digital marketing, and particularly big when it comes to SEO. And he said marketing has never been about keywords, it's all about people. And we can tend to get very stuck on the keywords part of it, or trying to get our audiences right. But when it comes down to it, creating a website and an online experience, whether that's on social media or on your own properties, is all about creating an environment that's good for people. Because it's good for people, it's going to be good for Google as well. This is brought to you today by the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program, in conjunction with Regional Development Australia in Brisbane and the Queensland region, as well as Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory. This is being recorded and will be on YouTube through the Business Station and my own Dante St James channel a little bit later today. If you're watching this on YouTube though, comment below if you've got any questions. If you're watching this live on Zoom, we've got the chat, we've got the open questions open. You can leave me questions. I'll be able to answer those as we're going through here, and any curly ones we'll save up towards the end as well. So what we're going to cover is a quick SEO refresher, the what is it and how does it work thing. We're going to cover what you can win at and what you can likely not win at. We're going to look at what's important in 2021 that's changed, particularly from last year, and there are a few things that have changed, and what you can realistically do either for yourself or when you can call in help for someone else to give you a bit of a hand with it. A bit about me. Dante is my name. I've done my education through the Western Sydney University, Sydney University of New South Wales, the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK, but remotely, and through TAFE New South Wales. I try to do a TAFE course every year. It seems like a stupid thing to do, but it actually helps sharpen up your skills and helps you to learn new things. I'm also certified as a lead trainer with Facebook, a digital marketing associate also with Facebook, and a media planning, media buying, creative strategy, and marketing science professional with Facebook Australia and New Zealand. I work with Google's Digital Springboard project, which is getting bigger this year, and working with a couple of government programs, notably the Be Connected program, the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions program, and the NEIS, or New Enterprise Incentive Scheme, which is also part of the federal government's jobs programs. And this is going to be presented to you with an offer at the end. And I'm going to put you in a sales funnel. It's just literally going to help you out with something through my business Clickstarter, which is pivoting mostly towards SEO stuff in this next couple of months. And it's certainly been the area where we've had a lot of success in the last 3 years. And so I'm doubling down on that because it seems to be what you people seem to need. So a warning ahead is that SEO is a massive topic. It is so big, we cannot cover it all in 1 hour. There's entire disciplines and even university modules that are designed for SEO these days. This is a general overview only, so please take it as that. Now let's go into what a SEO refresher is. Now for SEO, for those who are at the very beginning of it, is search engine optimization. It's about making you better to find on Google, getting your rank up that little bit higher, hopefully above your competitors. And what it depends on is a complex algorithm and a complex mishmash and matrix of different factors. Those factors include the trust level of your website that's been earned over a period of time. It depends then, and in order of these things is in order of the size of the orbs. The bigger the orb, the bigger the weighting factor on that. Then it looks at how popular your website or your page is. Now that is a very important factor, but on its own, it can also not be that important when you don't have all the other stuff in there. It also got to do with the number of and relevance of links that are coming back to your website or your page. So they're doing it in, I just have to sneeze, sorry. It's gone away. It looks like I looked into the light above me and it was all better. You also look at the number of and the relevance of links to your site and your page. So whether they're good quality links that are coming in from good quality places and they're relevant to what it is you're doing rather than just spammy, scammy kind of stuff. But then it looks at the quality of your site's optimization, how your page is indexed to be able to be read by people and also to be indexed and read by Google itself and Bing and Yahoo and all the other search engines. Although we've got to really say that with 94% of market share in Australia, it's Google all the way. And the quality of your domain registration and web hosting is an actual factor. The cheaper the hosting you're having, the cheaper the registration you're having, the more problems you're going to have in the future. And also performance of your page for visitors. Now, this performance factor is actually going to come up very soon as an increased factor. It's going to become much, much more important. And then, of course, there's your social media links, your mentions, and your reputation that come across to form an overall picture of whether you're a business that can be trusted and the business has got some sort of credibility and some sort of authority. Now, the things that you can quickly control, okay, they're including things like the number of and the relevance of backlinks. You can go and buy backlinks. You can go to Reddit or go to Quora and put a whole lot of extra stuff in there. How well you've optimized your site is also a factor that you have control of. It's your website. You can do these things. It also includes your ability to work your Google My Business profile, which is one of the very first things you have to get right about SEO. The quality of your domain registration and hosting can be controlled. You just change to a more reputable host, a more reputable domain registrar, or at least a faster web host that's able to do a lot more on your website all at once. The performance of your page for visitors, you can increase that because a lot of that's got to do with how well you've optimized it for people and for Google. And those social media links, the mentions, the reputation, you have control over that by generating testimonials, generating reviews, generating lots of chatter and talk on lots of different platforms that Google can actually take a peek in and say, I can see what's going on there. This is a business that's going well. Some of the stuff that will take you time to do, and it's not going to happen overnight. In fact, it's not even going to take 3, 6, or 12 months. It takes much longer, is the trust level of your website. Now, for a couple of the websites I've been working on, particularly with one for Treaty Business Consulting, who I work very closely with, and also for Clickstarter, my business that I'm sort of rebirthing again this year into something new. Both of those sites have great reputation. They both have great performance. And they get lots and lots of traffic through on them, which is very surprising. But it's taken me years to get to that point. It didn't happen from day one. In fact, it didn't even happen over the first 2 years. By year 3, both of those sites are now performing so well to the point where, Treaty particularly has had so much extra work done in, and we've optimized pages to such a degree that we're now in a position where it's ranking #1 for over 30 different search terms. Clickstarter is in a similar position, at least on page 1 for another 25 search terms. So it's something which has taken time. It did not happen overnight. Pantene, remember that. Won't happen overnight, but you do the right things and it will happen. Your popularity is not going to happen overnight either. And if it does happen overnight, it's actually a signal to Google to say there might be a bit of a spammy, scammy problem going on here. They look for not fly by night, not for quick, sudden weeds growing out of the ground and appearing out of nowhere. They look for ongoing, sustained, and solid growth of audience to help to rank whether you're popular or not. Not popular just for today, but popular for the next week, month, and years. Your social media links, whilst I did say there's something you can control, and you can, you still have to work on that. It still may make you time to get more testimonials out, to get more feedback and reviews out, to get a bit of a solid posting process on social media, to make sure that you have enough stuff going from social media into your website for Google to be able to go, yes, I can see there is increased traffic going on here and it's on a sustained basis. Therefore, I can give you a bit of a better ranking there. So in this refresher, I'm not going to go too deeply into all of these, but suffice to say there are 4 main disciplines of SEO. The first one is on-page SEO. This is to do with the titles, the heading tags, the images being optimized to be able to load nice and fast and to view well on multiple formats and devices. Your page format and layout, that it can load quickly and easily in any browser that's being measured, is a massive factor for on-page SEO. The off-page SEO then is all the stuff that's coming to your site from external sources. Now, you haven't necessarily made these. This is not a link from your Facebook page to your website. This is links from citations in academic articles, mentions on news articles, backlinks directly from other sites, and particularly those that are within your industry or within a niche that you work with. Say, for instance, if you're working in the solar field, a link from an electrician's website to your solar website will be valuable because they are kind of related. A link from an ice cream website to a solar site, you're probably not quite so relevant and not ranked quite as highly by Google. You can start to get a picture here. This is a complex topic with lots of different little pieces to it. We're going through the very, very, very big picture view right now. We're going to get to some more specifics about what you can do soon. The technical SEO part of it is the main goal of making sure that search engines can crawl through and index what's in your site nice and fast and easily in some sort of logical format. So things like the speed of your page loading, really important. Sitemaps that give Google a way to go navigating through your site, very important. SEO design, so making sure your site is designed for Google and people to be able to read very, very easily. That is a big side of technical SEO as well. We can go into things like minifying JavaScript, minifying and combining CSS files and all that kind of stuff that really is important, but that's the sort of stuff that a technical SEO specialist can help with. Your content SEO is very closely related to your on-page SEO. It's all about writing for things like common keywords. So for instance, if you're a plumber, making sure that Perth plumber is in your keywords, or Brisbane plumber, Gold Coast plumber, Townsville plumber, Mount Isa plumber, Catherine plumber. Long tail keywords then are the things that people don't search for as often. So it might be spa plumber in Kununurra. If that's you, that's great. You're going to probably be the only person that ranks for that. That's what we call a long tail keyword. There's not a lot of searches going on for it, but the searches that are going on for it are very high intent, which means that people are very motivated to find you, very motivated to be very specific about the thing that they're specifically looking for. Quality content, which means not just throwing up a few words and running away or filling it full of spammy kind of terms and hashtags. Using what is called Google's schema. I won't go too deeply into this, but suffice to say, this is all about the structure of the data through your site and making sure that Google can tell that this particular Instagram site, this particular Facebook page, this particular Pinterest property, this particular LinkedIn page is related to this particular website and this particular set of contact details, having that consistency across everything so that the same format of phone number is used on your website, on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, on all your social media and all your search engines, then that's a good piece of schema. And having that consistency lets Google know that the information there can be trusted. Featured snippets are those things that when you go searching on, your digital assistants like your Alexas and your Hey G's and your Siris, that all those things are able to deliver a response in a very structured manner, so that it's very, very simple and easy for you to ask questions of those tools and get an answer back that makes sense. Same thing goes for if you're asking a question in Google and you want an answer back. Probably a good 50% now, or probably more, of results don't result in a click through to your website. So what you'll be getting instead is, I want the temperature in, let's just say, Karratha in Western Australia today. What it will do is throw back a result for you that doesn't go to a website. It may link through to a website for you to see more, but the basic information you're getting just appears on Google. It doesn't need to go to weather.com or the bomb or anyone like that. It needs to be easy to read as well, both for humans and again, for Google's search engine. Now, if it's easy to read for people, it will be easy to read for Google. That's a principle that I need to bring across everything. Writing for SEO is essentially writing for people. You're not writing for an algorithm, you're writing for people. Now, the 4 niche SEO disciplines go a little bit deeper. Now, this is local SEO, which is about getting visitors to a real world store, going to your cafe, your restaurant, your mechanics workshop, your clothing store, your footwear store, places that need a physical person to walk into a physical shop front, where you're competing with other physical shop fronts and workshops and offices. You want your position to show up in maps. You want your position to be openly shown in Google My Business. So this may not suit necessarily people who work from home. This is more about physical businesses that need locals coming to them, and they're only really interested at this stage in serving a local customer. Mobile SEO is, again, not a different type of SEO on its own. It's very closely related to, to technical SEO, but also very closely related to on-page SEO as well. It's all about making your site mobile friendly, fast to load, simple to use, not cluttered, sometimes showing that your website has a completely different layout on mobile than what it has on a desktop environment, so that you've got buttons rather than links, things that make it really simple to use on a phone when you're outside and the sun is shining on you and you can't quite see everything correctly. A good mobile SEO generated site is going to be gold for you. Commerce SEO is all about for online shopping. So if you're going to a Shopify site, you've got your categories, your product pages. It's all about the naming, the tagging, the categorization, and making sure there's a clear pathway through for a shopper to be able to get to the thing that they're looking for. And then voice SEO finally is all about optimizing things like facts, news, fast responses, recipes, very quick instruction on how to do something, measurements, calculations, and local information like weather addresses, that kind of thing. It's like the thing that you do when you go, hey G, or hey, I've got to silence my phone here, the G word being Google. Hey you, what is the temperature going to be like today in Darwin? Something like that. So that's the broadest sense of what SEO is when it comes to all those particular things. Now, SEO agencies, generally, and there's a few of them down there on the screen, including my own, they will work generally on-page SEO. They're very, very efficient at that and very good at it. The content SEO is something they like to work on as well. Local SEO, pretty much any agency can work on that. But it then takes particularly specialist agencies to work on things like off-page SEO, like backlink generation, mobile SEO, where they're actually willing to go in and rebuild parts of your website to make your site more SEO friendly. Commerce SEO takes a very specific kind of person, because it also takes a lot of money and often a lot of advertising to get someone through to your e-commerce site to buy something when they're used to going to a much bigger, much better known and much more established brand. Technical SEO generally takes a web developer to be able to pull off. That said, there's some people who are able to do it with plugins and things like WordPress, or if you're using something like Wix or Weebly or Squarespace, that kind of stuff's usually built in, and there's not really much you can do in the way of technical updates to those platforms. In fact, there's just nothing you can do. They do all that for you. Whether they do it well or not, that depends on the particular platform and what the demands of Google are for your particular website. Voice SEO is a very specialist area and quite new, and not many people are doing it at all. I'm not entirely sure that any of them on here are probably doing that, except for maybe OnQ and One Egg and Headley. They're very, very high-end SEO markets. They don't take the local mechanics workshop and make them found on Google. They take very major brands and chains and corporations and do that kind of work for them. It gives you an idea of really what you're up against, doesn't it? Your likely scenario really is, as a small business that's getting into the whole realm of SEO and starting to learn what it's all about, is that you'll probably not win with SEO if you're selling fashion on e-commerce. This is probably not going to be the place you're going to go, because large, big national and multinational search results are going to be running over the top of you in competitive niches because they're an established player. They've got the money in the market to actually back them in it. Things like trades and services in larger cities, it's going to take a lot to win that. And I include things like being a lawyer in that one. One of the biggest paying search terms on Google Ads in Australia is divorce lawyer. And that in places like Sydney and Melbourne, they're paying up to $300, $350 per click for someone to get in there, because the money you can get back from a divorce is probably really good. So that they're willing to pay that much to get that person in there and to get those higher value responses for those who just want efficiency and want to just choose the thing that comes up first on Google. Those of us who need to shop around a bit more because we're a bit more price sensitive, we tend to go a little bit further down those search results, or we don't try to search across, say, Perth. We try to search just within our suburb, let's just say Joondalup or Carramar or Wembley Downs, anywhere like that. You just go for that very specific locality and just go, I'm looking for a lawyer who specializes in divorce in this particular area. So you may be able to win with that, but generally over a big city, you're probably not going to win. General retail stores and e-commerce trying to advertise to a whole city area or a large regional center on their own may not win when they've got 30 competitors for them. So plumbers, electricians, mechanics, workshops, I'm kind of talking to you. Gift stores, probably to you as well. If you're in a large regional town or a big city, you're probably not going to be the person who wins at that using SEO. There are other ways to win, just SEO is probably not going to be the one for you. If you're in life coaching, NLP, Reiki, alternative therapies, even physiotherapy, and a lot of the more mainstream therapies, you're going to struggle with SEO if you haven't already been doing something like this. Whilst you're in a town the size of, say, let's say Darwin, Cairns, Townsville, Rockhampton, Toowoomba, I would say probably as big as maybe Albany, Bunbury, Geraldton, some of those larger Western Australian cities as well, would be able to probably compete quite well with SEO. But once you start getting to Perth and Brisbane and Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, those bigger centers, then you're starting to get to the point where you're competing with like 100 other people who are NLP practitioners, or 300 other Reiki practitioners, or 400 other physiotherapists. And the competition is quite fierce there. The way to win in SEO then is to either outspend, or you outspend in things like Google Ads, which drive more traffic. And I'll talk a bit more about that soon. What you probably won't win is because your competitors have a head start over you. Trying to go up against the Iconic or the ASOS to sell imported dresses from other countries that are gorgeous and high quality, and you know that, and they've got a very strong point of difference to whatever is sold in a chain store. Your competitors in that space are going to have a massive years and years and years long head start ahead of you. They've been doing this a lot longer. So they've got the momentum. They've got that big blue orb, the popularity thing, and the trust factor, the big red orb we were looking at before. They've already got that in place. So it's going to be hard for you to make any sort of dent in that. You probably won't win in terms of larger businesses being able to spend this cash to stay ahead of you. I've had this with all sorts of clients where we suddenly make, let's say pest control. I had a pest control client on the Gold Coast, and we started spending in a very specific manner to try and cut into the big, national and multinational conglomerates that sell pest control as well. And we had a lot of really solid results through that by doing Google ads. The minute we did that though, within a week, the big guys had upped their spend in that area because a competitor came in and essentially wiped out our ability. We couldn't keep up with the spend that they were able to keep up with. So that's the kind of thing that comes with certain niches when you're using things like SEO or using Google ads. You can be outspent, but there's other ways you can do this, like through say social media and social ads. You can compete because the large guys don't tend to advertise through there because they can't work it out. SEO takes time to have an effect. If you're someone who is in a rush to get there, if you've got a cash runway or a cash flow issue where you can't really go for longer than about the next 4 weeks without getting to number one on Google, this is not the way to do it. You're not going to get there, and you're going to have to find a different way to do it. Usually by spending money on things like Instagram and Facebook, on Pinterest, on other platforms is a way for you to sort of jump up a little bit and become a little bit more known for what it is you do. SEO does take time. If you're going to invest in SEO or someone to do SEO for you, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not a campaign. It's actually a way of conducting business over a long period of time. And you'll find every corporation, every even mid-sized company that's operating in a competitive market or competitive style or niche are somehow working with someone with SEO to ensure that they've got everything in place that's going to make them competitive for the natural, organic Google results. Where you may possibly win is where people are searching specifically for you. They're not looking for a plumber. They're looking for AJ's Plumbing. They're not looking for a gift store. They're looking for home in the Westfield at Helensvale. They're not looking for a cafe. They're looking for Zarafa's drive-through cafe in Loganholme. They're looking for a very specific brand in a very specific location. If you can optimize towards that and people know who you are, and it does take time, you need to work on getting that brand recognition. That's why all the branding people are so popular right now, because this is your way. You want to get people searching for you directly, not looking for what you do. For instance, you're looking for red shoes. every retailer who shops for, who provides red shoes, from Mathers to Betts to Stomp Shoes and every other area that sells red shoes, they're going to be coming in over the top with you, as well as everybody who sells it online. What you want to be found for is Ruby's Red Shoe Shop or something like that. Or you want to be the local provider and you go, well, don't be looking for red shoes at, and then the name of your particular store. The better your brand cuts through, the easier it is for not just Google to find you, but for people to find you. If they're looking for you, they're not actually looking for anyone else, and it cuts all your competition out of the picture. Search is what you do in your local area. Now that can be a really good one. When I say local area, I'm not talking about Brisbane. I'm talking about Woodridge. I'm not talking about Perth. I'm talking about Subiaco. I'm not talking about Darwin. I'm talking about Parap. I'm talking about very specific local areas that you can tie down to. People who are searching for, let's just say, a home builder in Palmerston in the Northern Territory. We want to find them. That's a very specific search that you can optimize for, as being a home builder in Palmerston, Northern Territory, or a home builder in Rockingham, WA, or a home builder in Springwood in Queensland. They're all the options that allow people to search very, very specifically in a very specific place where you're much more able to compete to be in that search result, as opposed to home builders in Brisbane, home builders in Perth, home builders in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Gold Coast, those kind of things. They're very broad searches, and the big guys love to answer this call for a broad search. You've got the opportunity to win in very narrow, very niche searches. There's not a lot of them. There's not anywhere near as many of them. That's what we call the long tail, because if you draw like a chart which sort of fades out from the top, where it's very wide, down to the over the right or far left, and a very narrow set, very few people are searching for it, but the searches are very, very specific and very high value. If people are searching for a new product or a new service with a name, particularly if it's something which you have, you're the leader in, you're the opening person, you're the first person to provide it, that can be really, really good for you, because you've got in there first, you've got a presence online first and advertised it and promoted it first. You have the first mover's advantage. And things to do and experiences in your town. Say, for instance, you're looking for reef charters in Cairns. Whilst there's a lot of reef charters in Cairns, or a lot of reef tours in Cairns, there's also only so many of them. So that it's much easier for you to appear in those search results, because you won't be up against reef tours, say off Magnetic Island in Townsville. You won't be there with, island tours off Bundaberg and the Fraser Coast. So what you may possibly win in is because you've chosen a well-known brand to work with, and you've done work over the years to ensure people know who you are. A well-named and well-chosen name is very easy to find on Google, which is why I chose Clickstarter, because no one else seems to be using it except someone in England, I think was. I think someone in Denmark was, but no one in Australia was using it. So it was something which was really easy for people to remember. And I did things like very early on, did TV advertising and Facebook ads to make that brand be very aware out there. Now people just find us directly. You've got local and suburb searches working differently to what broad searches are, because the minute you go, I'm looking for red shoes, it goes everywhere looking for those red shoes. It'll preference places nearby, but if you're that place nearby and someone's searching for red shoes in, let's just say, Edmonton in Queensland, then you're specifically saying, I want to find red shoes available in that area, or at least near that area. The first mover's advantage is when you're the first to come in with a new product, you're the first to sell it, the first to promote it. It could be a new multi-level marketing scheme that you're the first on board in your area. It could be a new idea or invention of yours. Then you've got the natural advantage. You are going to be the first person to hit that. You might possibly win too. Like I said, in the Cairns Reef tours, you might win in something like that, or accommodation in the Atherton Tablelands, or accommodation in Catherine NT. There's only so many providers in those areas. So therefore you can shuffle in and out of those other people, no matter how big they are, quite easily, as opposed to accommodation in North Queensland, which takes in multiple cities, everything from Mackay, or not so much Rockhampton, maybe Mackay, Townsville, Cairns, and then inland to Mount Isa even, or places like Emerald, maybe places that are far afield from where someone's searching for. The search parameters are much more broad. You want to be able to win at things that are very, very narrow. The cafe that's in Alice Springs, a roadhouse in Tennant Creek, stuff like that. So that's the overview of what SEO is, some of the things you may be able to win at, and some of the things where you're probably not going to win using SEO using. What's important in 2021 is a few factors that Google have said, okay, these are the things that we're focusing on right now. Now, these ones are always going to be important. And if you want to rewatch any screen to figure out how to make your website better, or your profile on the internet a bit more Google oriented, this is the one screen to screenshot. This is the one screen to be going back to when we watch this on YouTube later on. The trust level of your website is it's just the massive factor, along with popularity. Now, if you don't have control of those two things straight away, you start working on the smaller things like backlinks, making sure your page is very well optimized, making sure you've got a good quality web host that serves your pages as fast as possible. Your pages aren't cluttered full of lots of things. And we'll cover some of that technical stuff very soon. The performance of your page is going to come into another topic, which is just in a couple of slides time. What is more important in 2021 is what they call page experience. And I'm going to explain exactly what that is in the next slide. Branded search, which I'm also going to expand on, but it's to do with the name you've chosen for your business and the work you've done to get known as that particular brand, so people will look for you. And then the third one is the quality answers to common questions and uncommon questions as well. So let's expand on those a little bit. The page experience algorithm update came in late last year. And even though they've been sort of holding off and being very, very like pre and post COVID about these things, eventually this is going to be the default way that Google is going to judge your particular website. Now, rather than being a hassle, this is an opportunity for smaller businesses to start to get a really good cut and get ahead of the bigger players who cannot move quite as quickly. When you've spent $5.2 million on your e-commerce website, you don't change that thing in a hurry, because it's going to cost you another $5.2 million to build another one at least. And that's in today's money. If you built it 2 years ago, it's probably going to be $7 million now. But in your case, you've built yourself a little $1,500 Shopify site, or you've spent $5,000 on a grant and got a Shopify site or a BigCommerce site or a WooCommerce WordPress site. What you need to be able to do is make that page, every single page on it, easy to use and navigate through to what people want to get to. So again, if they're looking for those red shoes, make sure the red shoes are right at the top of that page of the one that they land on, which is apparently the red shoes page. The easier and the quicker you get through those damn red shoes and a title that says red shoes and an explanation and a tagging of a product that says red shoes in it, the better you're going to do. You want to get it so it's super fast to go from the entry point in the site to some kind of action with as little friction as possible. We want to chuck WD-40 all over your website to make sure people can zoom through and get to the thing they need to get to, particularly on these things, on a mobile phone. That's where people are doing the majority of their shopping now. I find it myself. I'm sitting there flicking through Amazon and eBay and even local suppliers and ordering food all on my mobile phone. Very little of it's happening on my desktop now. This is a place for work. My life happens on this thing. And that's very much reflected in most website users these days. You want minimal annoyances like pop-ups and overlays. Now, I know that conversion optimization specialist and that online coach guru was telling you, make sure that every time someone leaves your page, pop up a message and say, sign up for my newsletter because you need those email addresses. Yeah, that's fine. But don't pop it up on every page. Don't pop it up every time someone visits you. It's annoying. And the more annoying, Google has an algorithmic measure for how annoying your website is. If I am trying to read something and then I just sort of shuffle my mouse over and it generates somehow a pop-up to go, oh, before you go, do this. I'm annoyed by that, because as soon as I close that, it's like, oh, actually, they didn't really need to do that. You've just annoyed them, rank down. So all those sort of pop-ups, things like videos in the background, things that are taking up all the space on the screen, overlays that are very hard to close, All those sort of annoyances, they're going to come up against you. They may help with your conversion rate for the minute, but over a period of time, they are going to cause you big amounts of trouble. They're going to make it so that you're not able to get through and achieve what you want to achieve through your website at all. So how do we address page experience? Rather than concentrating on building a new website, you can work with a website you've got, but create within your website things that we call landing pages. Now, a landing page is a very specific page for a very specific purpose or a very specific product. You don't necessarily need that landing page to look like the rest of your website. They often work better when they don't link to the rest of your website and don't have the same header and menu as the rest of your website. And they have a very direct call to action. A good experience of a landing page is, yes, the text on this page answers the question I had. Yes, that photo is matching what I want to do with this website. And yes, I want to buy now and click on that, or book now, or download menu, or connect to our social media properties. A good experience is very easily measured by Google, and it's going to be more increasingly done through these landing pages. Landing page is a whole other deal, and I can do another webinar maybe in March that's going to cover that in a lot more detail. But for now, just keep that idea in your mind of creating landing pages for the specific actions you want people to take on your website. Removing all the clutter. So if you've got video backgrounds, they need to go. They are not helping you sell anything. They just, designers love them because they're designers. They really love to have all that sort of stuff. So remove that kind of stuff. A question here from Kylie saying, is it good practice to have a landing page and a blog instead of a website if I have one product? Well, if you've only got one product, you're probably just going to have a very small website anyway with a blog. So your home page essentially becomes your landing page. You want to get rid of all that clutter out of that thing and make it all about converting to what your product is. So every page, your blog needs to have lots of calls to action through it. If you've got a 700-word blog, every 200 to 300 words, you should be putting some kind of call to action in there saying, book me now or buy now, something like that. So yeah, definitely just simplify down that landing page, that home page, so it becomes a landing page of sorts that happens to have a blog connected to it. Your blog is supporting your sales. Your website's not there to support people reading your blog. That's the kind of the way I look at it. Things like slideshows. I know you've got a lot to say and your business has a lot of wonderful things about it and you want to be able to show all the different facets of everything you do. I hate to tell you, but no one cares. They honestly don't. They're there at your site to achieve a particular objective. And that objective isn't to learn about how wonderful you are. The objective is to get done the thing they need to get done, which is get your phone number, fill out a form and contact you, see what your product is to see if they want to buy it, and then get out. We're not trying to create massive experiences for people as small businesses. We're trying to create a place that says, here is here's the goods. Here's what we do. Great question for Jeanette saying, should I have a video of me chatting about what I do on my homepage? You can do that as long as it's not embedded in your website natively, so that every time someone loads that page, the video loads as well. Using something like Vimeo or YouTube to embed that in there is probably a lot more helpful to you than that. But what I would say is that your video can be on something like a landing page. If that landing page is and it's connected to a campaign on Facebook, for instance, you're going to add on Facebook, which says, here's me chatting about what I do to help businesses achieve X. Then people expect to click on that link, go to a page and see a video of you chatting to someone about how you help businesses do this thing. That's expected. So what you've got to think of is, what is the intent that someone has when they land on your website? If they land on your homepage, where are they coming to your homepage from? Is it from Google? Is it from a Facebook ad? Is it from you putting it on your business card? If it's from the business card, the intent is going to be that they're looking to book something with you. If it's looking from Google, the chances are they're looking to book you. If they're coming from a Facebook ad though, they're in what we call the top of the funnel. They're looking at very much early in the customer journey. So you've got to decide whether your homepage is the place where people come to when they're early in the journey towards you, whether they're halfway through and they're now comparing you to other people, or whether they're at the point of wanting to book you. And this is the difference between landing pages. A homepage, I think, also always should be pointing towards what exactly you do and how to engage you. By the time that someone knows you well enough to know what your website is and your web address is, they're coming to you, they've got a fairly strong intent to do something with you. So in your case, a video of you chatting could be very valuable, but back it up with some text that also explains what that is. A landing page on Facebook, and where else can I use the landing page? Insta or Pinterest. So the landing page is still on your website or on your web hosting, but you would use them for different purposes. Say, for instance, I got a first line of ads on Facebook. This is a great line of questioning, by the way. First line of ads on Facebook. That Facebook ads were pointing to letting people know basically the value of interior design, right? So I'm not looking to convert them into a customer yet or a client. I'm just saying, you should know the value of interior design. You could have a room that looks like this if you do it yourself with IKEA, or you could have a room that looks like this, and you're showing how the value of what you do. You're getting people basically interested. You might get 100 people come through and click on that ad to find out more about the value of interior design. Then you would use something like Facebook retargeting or even Google remarketing, which looks at the little code that's on your site and says this person has engaged with this video that I showed, or this page that I showed on my ad landing page. Send them a new ad now, which points them then to a new landing page. That second landing page isn't about the value of interior design. It's about, well, we know you want to do interior design. Here's what you get when you engage me. So a very different intent. The intent isn't curiosity. The intent now is they're shopping around for an interior designer. And then you may then retarget that page again and people who visit it with a new ad. And that new ad will then say, now you want to engage an interior designer. Here, do it now, because I've got an offer or a deal on right now that will be expiring at the end of the month. So that will be at the very pointy end of conversion. What has this got to do with SEO? It has a lot to do with it, because people are going to come to you and look for you at different points in their journey on Google. Now, when they're usually in Google, we say that it's a fairly strong intent to purchase, or a very strong intent to interact with you in some way. By the time they got to searching for Google, they know who you are and what they're looking for, and they actually find you. Then you know they're pretty much on the pathway to a purchase somehow and sometime in the near future. If they're coming from Facebook, they're generally a lot earlier in that journey. They're still sort of thinking about it, or they're curious about it, that kind of thing. So I would always sort of make your websites more about the people who are the intent to deal with you. They're not just doing very curious early research. They're actually looking to deal with you. When you're looking at things like people doing research, they find that through things like ads on Facebook, ads on Pinterest, pins on Pinterest that link very much through to earlier stage landing pages, things that deliver a video upon, the topic of the value of what you do rather than book now. I hope that makes sense. And the sales funnel of Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and all that is a whole other topic, which I could go very, very off track with. But for now, let's just look at it as a way for you to create different experiences for different people as they're coming in. Some places are very smart with their websites. They can track the intent, and the website that you see is very different to the website I see, because we're at different stages of the journey. That takes a lot of traffic and a lot of money to make that happen, but it's really effective when it does. Make each page about one topic if you possibly can. Don't try and cram so much information into the homepage. You don't actually have to. What your homepage is all about is expressing what it is you do. There's a very specific process you can go through to do this, which I do through a thing called brand scripting. And I did that back on, was it last Monday or last Tuesday? I did one on that. Look for it as on YouTube, and look for what I did, creating your brand messaging, and you'll be able to see that particular message there. And you want to reduce the marketing bloat, things like the pop-ups, the chat windows, all those sort of things. Reduce it down to the very bare minimum so people can get to what their intent is, which is to book you, research you, buy from you, whatever it is their intent happens to be very direct towards it. Now, this one's probably fun for everyone, because you find this is the place that you can win the easiest. And this is called branded search. Now, what we found was in the last year, during COVID particularly, that branded searches increased by 27% in 2020, as opposed to non-branded searches decreasing by 22%. I've got a bit of a slide coming up that explains that in a bit more detail and what it actually means for you. In an uncertain world, we look for the things that we can trust and the things that we can feel good about. We've had a very uncertain world, come from floods and bushfires through to COVID, economic disaster, all that sort of stuff is contributing to uncertainty. So it means that we tend to go to things we know and trust. So branding now has suddenly become a very important thing for small businesses who aren't in a position where they've got, the Maya branding, which you feel safe with, the Kmart branding that you feel safe with. You're dealing with Josie's essential oil shop, which doesn't have any brand to speak of. So how do you do that? Well, you've got to go through a process of brand design and brand building. And that's going to become a very important thing for small business to do a little bit further down the track. But just understand it's much easier for someone to find you on Google if they know the name of your business. If they don't, it's going to be harder for them to find you on Google, and you will get lost amongst all the other results for people that do the same thing as what you do. So how you do the brand thing is that you don't just rely on SEO. SEO is not the magic silver bullet that's going to make you make $1 million. It works with other stuff. So you've got advertising to make sure your brand gets in front of many people. Remember before I said to you, I bought a short run of TV ads for about 3 months, which is quite short apparently, about 3 months of TV advertising. I'm about to do it a little bit later this, sort of middle of this year as well, to top it up, so that people know what my brand is and they recognize it, so that when they come across it on a general Google search for what I do and they find me, they feel like they can trust me because they've heard about it before. That's a very real thing that people do. It's kind of crazy. Social media is a great way to grow your brand, and probably the cheapest way to do it, through ads, through posting, through building communities and groups. It's going to take you time to do that. It's going to take you attention to do that, but it does work, and it works quite often faster than what you'll get out of things like TV and radio and outside of home advertising like billboards, bus shelters, and backs of buses and taxis. You need to have a very clear message with branding. An easy to remember brand name, a slogan that makes sense, an easy to remember message, so that people go, this brand does this for me, and this is how they do it. You want that sort of memory in their heads of what when they see a brand, they know exactly what that means. When I go Bega cheese, you know exactly what you're getting. You're an Australian owned cheese that's probably made out in the Bega region of southern New South Wales, right? The same thing goes with your brand. You want to have some kind of control over what people think about your brand when they come across it, because it's so much easier to search for your brand name, if it's a good brand name, on Google than what it is to search for what you do in the city you do it in. And you want to associate your name with something to what you do. Clickstarter is what I chose because it literally is about starting the process of people clicking through to your website. So it has something very, very close to do with what I do. Doesn't necessarily mean that you then cannot have like a local indigenous name. It could be really good as long as it's then tagged with what exactly it means and does. So calling something like a JP Consulting doesn't mean anything to anybody, but if it's JP Building and Construction Consulting, then you've got that associated with what you do. So having a name that really does explain a bit about what you do without going into too many words is going to help you to be found as well. And then finally, the change in 2021 that's really big for us now is the whole idea of providing answers to questions. Now, when we're providing answers to questions, we're not talking necessarily about the ability for you to answer all the questions that people have about everything in their lives. What we're doing is providing easy to find answers that are pointing to you being the solution and being an easy place to get a particular answer from. We use Google a lot differently now than what we used to. 80% of voice searches are simple questions and answers, and more than 50% of searches on Google don't go through to a website. They just display within Google. So the idea is you have things like, the top 10 things that customers are asking you. This is a way to create content on your website. The good content for your website would be exactly this. What are the 10 things that people ask you? That's 10 new pages that'll rank on Google, but when people do ask for those questions online. The 10 things you wish customers would ask you, that's another 10 pages of content, all based upon it. And you answer it in a very clear format. And the format is usually ask the question in the title, answer the question in the first sentence, very, very briefly and concisely. Then provide 3 to 5 dot points of what that answer is about. And then you can expand the answers out for the rest of your article. Now, you don't have to write 3,000 words to be ranking on Google for each of these things. You can do it in 250 to 300 words, which when you get going is actually not that many words at all. You have now 20 new pages full of answers to the questions that people in your area or people who are looking for what you do are asking. You're already setting yourself up to be well ahead of everyone else. There's a technique about this to write with. I do have a webinar that I've done as well before. If you look through the business station ones, you'll see how to write for conversions is a particular one. You're able to do that. How you incorporate these sort of things into your website is through pages or through your blog. Your blog can simply do this as well. I like to do them as what you call hidden pages. So thanks to UpperReach for that. I do these definitely as hidden pages because what I want to do is ensure that I've got the ability to be able to let Google know where they are. But when people land on my website specifically looking for me, they know exactly what my web address is. I want them to find it, my website, in the most pristine condition possible. I'm not looking to answer a question to someone who's not actually asking that question. But on Google, they're asking that question. Get them to the page on my website directly that answers that particular question. So that's a very specific format I won't go too deeply into because I know we are running out of time. What you can realistically do as a human who owns websites is probably to rewrite your content to better suit what people are looking for. That's part of what we were just talking about, writing those pieces of content that then allow you to get those search results, decluttering your pages, getting rid of those beautiful slideshows and videos that you really love. They're not helping you, trust me. Create new pages with content that answers the questions. We were just talking about that. Work out what your brand message is. And please, if you do get a chance, there's a thing called Creating a Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's a great book. Get it on audiobook or on that, but it's a great book that actually helps you work that sort of stuff out. I do those very frequently as a session through the ASBAS Digital Solutions program as well. It's a guided walk through coming out the end with some kind of brand statement or message that people can understand. What you may be able to do yourself, but at a cost, is things like getting better web hosting, paying for services that speed up your site elsewhere. So like Cloudflare and Jetpack and all that sort of things. Or having, there's other sort of, there's some other services too, which speed up video on your site. So I can't remember any of them offhand. I know that they think, Akamai, I think is one of them, that sort of thing. So it can be very, useful to you to use those sort of services as well. But generally YouTube's fine for that kind of thing. They're going to serve it a lot faster than your own website will anyway. Paying for Google and Facebook ads to generate traffic through your site, because the more traffic that comes to your site, the more popular your site is. Remember, that was the big blue orb that was #2 factor. So if the more traffic you can get, the better you can go. Paying for traditional marketing campaigns like TV, radio, out-of-home advertising, billboards. I wouldn't say newspaper ads. I think they're a waste of time, but maybe local business magazines or local lifestyle magazines might be quite good for you. Brad's asking is if this mobile friendly website takes 4.7 seconds to load, but the host says they can make it load in 3 seconds, what can you do? So if the host can do that, that's great. You want that. Using something like Cloudflare for free, they've got a free version, will increase your speed, decrease your speed by a factor. That's quite outstanding for a free topic. If you can work with your web developer, or if you can do it yourself, putting your website through a service like Cloudflare, which is free, is going to be an excellent way to speed up your site. And that will probably give you that kind of improvement from 4.7 to 3 or even under 3. I pay for Cloudflare at $20 a month US, and it has increased my conversions. It's increased the amount of traffic I get through. And it's also, it's taken a site that was taking around about 3.5 seconds to load to just over 1 second to load those pages. That is phenomenal. When you need to get help is when you're working with technical stuff, fixing the issues with, where you've got pages that are blocked from indexing, that kind of stuff. Your off-page and backlinks, you probably need help with here, because what we tend to do as business owners, we go out and spam things. We go off and put our little ad copy into every forum that we can possibly do, and that's not actually helping us. In fact, if anything, it will penalize you. You won't be deregistered, won't be delinked. You'll just be ranked lower than people who are behaving right. Copywriting is a big one too, because some of us are just not good as writers. Some of us are great. For me, it's like breathing. I can write copy like that. But, I'm also not cheap. So we've got to look at something that's realistic here. You may not be able to do the writing that's really required for this, but someone else may be able to. Looking for local copywriters, and I know through the ASBAS Digital Solutions program, there's a ton of copywriters on that program. Look up those skills and you'll get some people who can actually help you out, or at least give you a format with which you can write. Your submissions and your fixes, so going into Google and saying, here is my site, here is my site map, here's how to read my site and operate on it, and please tell me when something goes wrong. Knowing how to fix those things where they go wrong, chances are that you're probably going to have to use someone to help you do that. Usually the person who built your website, or someone who's capable of working inside whatever the website is. You're not going to get a lot of these in things like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress.com, but if you've got your own self-hosted WordPress site, or Joomla, or any of those sort of open source pieces of software, they would be really, really good to work with. Now, what I'm going to be offering, Jackie said, how do you become a copywriter and what do you need to know will be a great session. Yes, it would be. In fact, I have done that one before, how to become a copywriter. And it's a very, very specific set of skills that someone can learn if they're good with words. So I would actually like to bring that one up again. I might actually look at I'm going to put this down, March copywriting webinar. I'm going to do that one for you, Jackie, because I think that would be awesome fun. So what I'm offering here is an SEO review for free to anyone who's viewing this session on either live right now or on YouTube. What you need to send me through this email address is your website address, your 3 main competitors' website addresses, the city and town and state or territory that you're in, and tell me whether you're looking to serve local customers or whether you're looking to serve customers outside of your local area as well. So I'll repeat that again, your website address to that email address. What are the web addresses of your 3 main competitors, your city, town, and state territory that you're in, and whether you serve local customers or whether you're searching national or global ones. What I'll send you back is a report of everything that's wrong with your website in comparison to your competitors, but it also gives you a pathway onto the things that you can probably do yourself and the things that you may need hand with. Now, I'm not putting this into a sales funnel. When you send me that email address, it just goes to my Gmail, my G Suite address. I'm not putting it into a system or anything. The government pays me for these webinars, so I'm not going to concern myself about trying to get more SEO business. I get plenty. My YouTube channel is you just look for my name, Dante St James. So I'll just put that into the chat window and you'll be able to view this again later. Or you can search for Business Station, also in YouTube, and they will be hosting these too. Some days I put mine up first, some days they put theirs up first. Depends on whether who's a bit more trigger happy and wanting to get that audience going through to their channel the most, I guess. So that email address, this offer will expire on June 30th this year, so please do take it up. I'll be happy to help you out. I've got a bit of backlogs. It might take me a couple of weeks, but either way, I'll be really glad to take a look at what you do. So thank you so much for joining me this morning or this afternoon in Queensland by now. I know that this is a very dry topic at times. It's a very hard topic to take in. You can watch this again on YouTube. Just look for either of those 2 addresses that I put into chat. Or please feel free to reach out to me on that too if you want a little bit of advice on which direction you should go to. I'm also available for booking on the ASBAS Digital Solutions program, but you can't find my name in there. So you'll have to look for ASBAS Treaty Advisors. I'm putting that in the chat. If you look for that or just Treaty, you'll be able to find me. I'll be one of those in there. So they'll be able to bring that through to my particular channel to address for you. Thank you again. Have a great week and keep on trucking, because it's a really, really awesome world to get into SEO, and you can win just as long as you pick your battles correctly.